Okay, I'm making do with a terrible setup here. I apologize. Recording from my phone, but I am recording, so let's see what's going on here. This is from my comic I'm drawing called, or actually created, called The Glass Crown. This is a necromancer of ill repute. Still in the kind of ugly phase, but looks like he is going to be probably bringing some bodies back to life. Haven't drawn them in yet, really. In the background over here, kind of see a leg going on. There's going to be a body there. There's going to be a body on the other side. Just kind of see how it goes. Right now I'm really concentrating more on him. You see I kind of laid in some trees in the background, but there's not a lot really going on. Just generally thinking about this guy right here. My bad dude. So, hope you enjoy. It's also incredibly difficult for me. My phone's right in my face, so I kind of have to stoop down to see what I'm doing. So you can kind of see in my reflection, there's a little reflection on my screen there. So please excuse that, and also, of course, this going on. But what are you gonna do? We're painting. Got another layer going on, just in case, because I don't want to screw anything up. I did most of this on one layer, which is not my typical style. Normally I go through quite a few layers. This one I wanted to do a little bit more painterly, so mostly on one layer. I did have a sketch layer, so that's layer 2, layer 3, just a gray background. But we're going from there. I'll most likely desaturate this afterwards, take out a little bit of that blue, a little bit of this orange. Not much. That's just because the rest of the book is going to look that way. I don't want it to look that much different. So, without further ado, we're going to jump right in on it. Just gonna try to make his face pop out a little bit more. Really, it's a mask, but it's a skull mask. Once I finish the book and you guys read it, you'll understand. You'll understand. At any rate. So, just gonna make it pop a little bit more. This looks like crap right now, but it'll work. Not sure if any of you are familiar with Sketchbook. I love it. Haven't used Photoshop since the 90s, so I'm a little bit behind on it. But I don't really want to. I'm comfortable with this. I understand its workflow, and that's really all that matters. So, use what you're comfortable with. That's what I always say. Well, I say a lot of things, but it's one of my sayings. Let's tone this back a little bit. There we go. It's looking better. Go back to that. This is actually just about full size. It's a little bit bigger than full size right now, so I'm drawing it really huge. I'm gonna lose some of the just some of the detail when I shrink it down, because this is really just going to be a panel. I don't normally do that either, but started out as a painting, and then I've kind of went from there, where I thought, I'll just make it into a panel. I left plenty of room for speech bubbles or whatever, but I think the composition is decent enough. I can say something with this, so I haven't really planned it. You know, it's not part of the script or anything like that, but I think I can work around it. Just as long as I don't do a lot of that, I think I'll be okay. So, from a distance, without, with, that looks better. It should have more shadow than that, but that's not, I don't really care about that. I want you to be able to see that face, that skull face. So, la-di-da. A little bit of highlight here. Sun's just barely catching it. Here and here. And here. Like I said, this one's approached a little bit different than the rest. I think I'm on, this is a 4th layer. Some people go wild with layers. I used to. There's really no need for it though. Really, just do whatever you want, but whatever you're comfortable with. But I know at one time when I was doing 60 to 70 layers. That's a lot to keep up with. So just think about that. What's impacting your workflow? What's doing more harm than good? And also, if you can't tell, I'm super nervous. This is my first time recording, so not even sure how it's going to turn out. So, not sure if any of you guys do this, but you can make another layer and either do a color layer or a saturation layer. I do saturation. Fill it with black. Okay, it's filled with black. That helps me spot problems in value. So I think I'm going to tone down the brightness a little bit of the background. I really want him to pop out. And this will be a focal point, so it's going to, most contrast is here. Although this right here is competing with it. That's why I'm going to back that down. You can keep a saturation layer on top and just toggle it on and off. Photoshop will do the same thing. Actually, just about any program with layers will do the same thing. I'm not familiar with all of them, but I've seen enough videos of people doing it to know. So, toggle it on and off. You can even, like in my book, I tend to just keep that saturation layer throughout, and then later on I just kind of lower it. Let's tone it down a little bit. Now the colors aren't quite as saturated. That's why I use a saturation layer. But makes it a little bit more natural. You get super bright greens and crazy colors when you're painting digitally, and it just doesn't look natural. Even though if you walk outside and look at a leaf on a tree, it's super bright green, you paint that leaf, it's not going to look believable. So I tone down the saturation a little bit, especially in this book. It's going to be toned down. I just want that to be a theme throughout it, just kind of a muted tone. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it off now, though. I'm not even sure how this is, if you can even tell much of a difference on the video. Doesn't look like it. So trust me on that, though. It works. So I'm actually going to do that again. Saturation layer, but I am going to just desaturate the background. So if I wanted to, I could fill again, so that's what I'll do. Just fill it again. I could have done that with that first one, but I have a plan for that. So, and then I just use a selection tool and go to town. I'm going to lasso all this. I use the lasso tool a lot, probably too much, and it's probably not a good thing, but it's good for me, so shut up. You don't have to shut up, you can say whatever you want. I'm not listening to you anyways. Like so. The plan is, once I'm done with all this playing around, background will be desaturated, and my character will be chock full of color. That's the plan. Although that doesn't always go to plan. I mean, anything I do, but so I could just use an eraser and erase away if I wanted to, if I wanted more of a mild kind of look. But instead I'm going to hit clear, or I could just hit delete. But I'm trying to stay away from the keyboard, so I'm not shaking the monitor too much. So you see how that worked? That's fully desaturated. Let's tone it down. You can't tell a difference, I know. Sorry. I tried to get a screen recorder going. This is an old laptop and it is not being friendly right now. So merge that down. That seems right. Let's get back to painting. Here's a trick I like to do. These are layers. I just said I wasn't doing a lot of layers, and now I'm going crazy with layers. But alright. But keeping in mind that there's going to be a body back there. So we'll kind of playing around that. He's got a cape. Very Skeletor-like, apparently. Obviously one of my things I draw from. I love He-Man. That's awesome. Master Universe was a big inspiration for me as a kid. A lot of people that were that way, but really was a cool show. Okay, so I got that done. What I like to do is actually select a water brush, which paints, it's a brush for painting waves. It's not a watercolor. But anyways, I like to choose one of those. Let me find a good one. Not seeing any. Not seeing the one I'm looking for. Anywho, there it is. I like to choose a brush for making waves and whatnot. This works really well for the ground too, so get a nice poopy brown. And brush is pretty big. I just drag it across there. I do it a lot on my ground. Gives it kind of a dirty feel. Let's get it a little bit. There we go. You notice I put the opacity down a little bit. It doesn't need to be drawing your attention to the ground. I just want you to see a texture in there. Otherwise, it just looks like a flat ground. But I want this to kind of look like just a rough patch of dirt that he's chilling in. Not sure if I'm going to be able to get this guy in. I'm not sure if that's where I want him. But he's going to be raising the dead. See, like I said, it's just some texture down there. So it doesn't look like a flat metallic or linoleum or something like that. So it's got a lot of layers to it without being layered. I like that. Don't get me wrong, it works great on water too. But all you do is change it to brown and there you have dirt. I'm doing some highlights on top. I could do the glow brush is what I'm going to use, just so it gives an impression of sunlight coming through the leaves, laying across here. Not sure how many people go outside, but if you go outside and look on the ground on a sunny day when there's trees around, the light leaves these. Boy, that sounded like a dick thing to say. I don't go outside much. I've heard about that. It's one of those things. Anywho. Merge that down. Okay. So, where was I? Face that. Oh yeah. Thinking of blocking this dude in. We'll go with kind of a warm gray, just so I can separate it from the background. Use my selection tool. This is just what works for me, so this is definitely not what everybody does. I just like to do it myself. It's a leg. That foot's a little small. It won't matter, he's not going to be that important. There's another leg. I probably should have separated that. Oh well. I'll make it up. The plan is torso. Big old shoulder, because my guys have big shoulder pieces. It's part of their look. Probably too thick. That's going to be some arrows. But oh well. Believe it or not, that's a neck. Doesn't matter because all this is going to be pretty much one shape. But I like to think about it as individual pieces as I'm doing it, so I don't get out of a big sloppy silhouette going on. So let's thicken up that a little bit. Arm's going to come out this way. Doesn't matter. One of those numbers. You can barely see this down here. Just know that I'm drawing an arm. Okay. So that is done. Grab a big marker. I could fill that with just the fill brush. I mean the fill tool that works. Or undo that. You get more variation if you don't do that. Oh, that sucks. Well, alright, looks like I'm tracing that out again. How boring. Okay. Well, I'll try to do a better job this time. I'll do it quickly this time. Like I said, this guy's not going to matter much. He's dude in the background, so I've got a cat trying to interfere with my recording. I have a puppy at my foot. They're just trying to keep me on my toes. Gotta stay ever vigilant around these animals. So, good news is once I've drawn something once, I can pretty much draw it over and over again. And that's just because for years that's what I did. Drew the same crap over and over and over again. Don't get me wrong, I loved drawing that crap, but I definitely like a challenge now. I can draw a skull in my sleep, so there's no challenge in that, no fun. So, what I have difficulty with is cars and animals. Definitely letters. Ugh, that was one of the worst ones. So I try to draw those now on occasion. What I was saying before was the marker, I can get a little bit more kind of variation going on. It's not as clean as if you filled that. With the lasso tool, you can definitely tell if you zoom in that a selection tool's been used. So I like to do that because it feathers a little bit here and there and breaks up that silhouette. YouTube artist Borodante just recently was talking about how he hates the silhouette. He's trying to get away from silhouettes. And I kind of agree with him on that. Thing with digital is you got to be careful. If you want it to look digital, you can absolutely make it look digital. But most of the time, we're trying to make it look a little more natural, make it look painted. And I'm not a painter by any means, but I do understand what he was getting at. So, like, that makes no sense at all what I just did. Am I right? Yes, I am right. What I did was duplicate that layer, set it to multiply, or you could also do color burn if you want to get fancy schmancy. I like multiply. Set it to multiply, and now to make that form, I could either take my soft eraser, drag across it, which makes a nice kind of soft shadow, or I could lasso tool that. Like I said, I use the lasso tool a lot. It's probably a bad thing, but it works for me, and I don't see too many people doing this. So I guess that's going to set my stuff slightly apart that way, for good or worse. I'm probably 5 years from now, I'm going to hate the lasso tool, and I'm going to talk about it and tell you guys why it's terrible and whatnot. So thinking about the hard light casting across here, really I'm only putting that where leather is going to be, just for kind of a texture's sake. No, it doesn't really make sense right now, but what I'm doing is, once I get these in place and try to get a form going, by form I mean the way that light curves around certain objects, gives it more of a 3D look. So what I'm doing is trying to make this flat piece of dookie right here into a look a little bit more 3D, and that's all. Okay, there's that. Not sure how well I succeeded in that, but you can definitely tell there's something going on back there now. Again, he's not going to be the center of attention, so this is going to be blacked out quite a bit. But I want you to be able to see him. That's important. So, what else am I doing here? I will merge this down here. I'm going to duplicate it one more time. Multiply it one more time. See how much darker he is now? I'm going to do that. Almost the same thing. Now, why didn't I do that before? Well, two reasons. One, I'm showing you my process. My process is tedious like that. Two, I wasn't sure if I wanted him this dark. So why would I go for it right off the gate? Right out the gate. So what I'm doing is kind of testing the waters on it, seeing how it looks. If this looks okay, I go with it. If it needs to be darker, I do that again. Like I said, this is definitely not something, there's not a science to it. This leg looks terrible, but I can paint that out later on. I really just want, there we go, I really just want this body back here. Let's see, back that up. Is that readable? Again, it's hard for you guys to see, but I can see it. And once color's added to it, I'll be able to take care of it a little bit more. So I can lock that layer if I want. Select a darker, I don't really want to go black. Something a lot darker like that. Stay with my marker. Think about where the light is coming. And then this is just continuing what I was doing earlier with the light. But instead now I'm doing it with shadow. And that is create